at me when I said that. She looked dead in my face and smiled at me when I said that.
Yeah, so, for, I guess most of your listeners, I assume are in the Jackson or metro area. I did see that headline as well, that the action that the city council took yesterday.
Yeah.
To begin,
Increasing
rates on water and sewer customers in the city of Jackson. And that kind of gets into that really area of regulation that we do not have statutory authority in. And that's due to our state statutes that, Title 77, that guide how we operate, that the legislature passed. And it explicitly excludes our regulatory authority from rates and billing of municipal utilities that serve customers within their city limits or up to 1 mile outside the city limits. However, for customers that do live 1 mile beyond the city limits of a municipality that serves utilities, our regulatory authority then kicks in, because those customers do not vote for a mayor or a city councilman or alderman or whatever, so they really don't have a voice in city government from those entities that appoint the public works director or sets the policies or the rates. So then we step in and fill that void and represent their interest in those matters.
So those City of Jackson people need to call your office.
In some cases there are, because you think that
regarding the water.
They also serve City of Byram, as you well know, and that guy's that sets the rates for them, and that's a different municipality. And in some cases, beyond 1 mile the city limits of Jackson, yes, and then we do have that authority, and to raise or increase or change rates within that area, they do have to come before the PSC to get permission to do that. Now, that kind of the wild card in all this, as I said, we do not regulate or provide regulatory oversight for customers on rates and billing matters up to 1 mile beyond the city limits. But also, even from the city limits to up to 1 mile, those individuals still do not have a voice in city government. They're kind of out there in no man's land, and it's unfortunate that that's the way statutes are right now. We really could see some tightening up of that to give those customers a voice.
So would this be like Raymond and?
No, that's further out. That's out in the county. But I'm talking about for those municipalities that serve customers outside their city limits, and how representation for them from our office occurs.
Okay.
It gets a little convoluted and a little confusing, and it's something that I know when customers do call our office with questions, may not always like to hear the answers we provide them, certainly because of the way the statutes are written up and how we regulate investor-owned utilities, rural water associations or utility districts, or even municipalities that provide utility services. It's certainly not a one-size-fits-all in there. It creates challenges on how and what we can do and what we can, the service we provide.
Okay. So, what's going on with the electric? We got some electric carpenters going on, right?
So, are you talking about in which manner? Just
so I know what legislators have been pushing for the electric companies to do to do a collaborative agreement or something?
Now, if you're talking about providing alternative services, like the rural broadband, and internet, that kind of thing. Okay. So back in 2019, the legislature did give our 25 rural electric cooperatives around the state the ability to provide services beyond just electricity, including broadband, rural internet, high-speed internet, but also facilitates, voice over IP and other telecommunication services. But primarily it's to provide access in those rural areas for those folks who do not have access to an affordable, high-quality, high-speed internet service. And to date, 18 of the 25 rural electric cooperatives have gone as far as creating a subsidiary to begin providing those services and deploying it out across the countryside. The rural electric cooperatives, we think of Mississippi Power and Entergy, particularly in this part of the world. That's the investor-owned utilities. and they do serve a large number of customers in the state. But the rural electric cooperatives, the electric power associations, when you put them together, they serve about 85% of the geographic footprint of the state. So they really get out in those areas. You're talking about areas that can be difficult and high cost to serve, and you think about the number of customers per line mile, whether it is telecommunications or electricity lines. In many cases, you're talking about customers in the single digits, 5, 6, maybe 7 customers per mile. And that gets really difficult to expand or extend those services cost effectively, and then still have a price point that makes it attractive for folks to sign up and subscribe to those services. Thankfully, there's been a lot of grants and money that's come into the states to help subsidize, I guess you say, to really share those costs to provide access and extend those services to folks. So that's something we're seeing a lot going on across the state. Entergy, Mississippi even serves rural areas. You think they almost serve they serve all of Madison County, about 90% of Hinds County, much of Warren, Washington, other counties that are also rural. Last year, the Public Service the state legislature did something very similar to did with cooperative. They are now allowing Entergy to partner with the service provider to go out there and allow them to utilize those. Thank you so much. To utilize those right-of-ways and easements, as well as leasing unused capacity on their own communication system that they use to communicate between their generators, their substations, their transmission infrastructure. So that's one way to help reduce the cost and get that out there, but still you gotta have takers for that.
Yeah.
We haven't quite got there yet,
For
but
people that live in populated areas like city areas, they a lot of times they don't really think about people that live in rural areas and the difficulties that they experience in just obtaining internet services.
correct.
This has been one of the things that has been talked about a whole lot, particularly during COVID.
Yes, ma'am.
The season of COVID where schools have gone to virtual learning, jobs have gone to home, and there's been a lot of internet usage. Well, in a lot of instances where rural areas may not have high-speed internet, or when there's a lot of usage in that area, the internet really slows down.
It does.
Almost to, I'm gonna take you way back to dial-up.
I remember that.
Yeah, so now when you have kids at home that may be on gaming devices, or they're downloading or streaming television or Netflix or something, and you got someone else in here trying to do virtual learning, and mom at home working from home, it's almost impossible.
It did. It went from internet being a luxury, an item of just for entertainment purposes, to COVID really brought forth the necessity and the critical nature of having that tool for you and your families. As you said, all of a sudden your home became your office, your schoolroom, sometimes your doctor's office, place of doing business, of ordering goods or receiving goods, whatever you need to live, work, play, whatever. And then, like I said, with everybody there, the multiple devices going on created competition between them, and it created not just capacity issues within your home, but throughout that network for that local area. So this has certainly risen to the top of what needs to be considered by policymakers, by those technology providers. But you're right, in those densely populated areas in so many cities and towns, you have access to 1, 2, sometimes 3 service options. Now, and in rural areas, you do good if you have a legacy DSL system to provide you. So it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a tough hill to climb, but with the commitment from rural electric cooperatives, from third-party providers, from others that are putting private capital as well as public dollars leveraged together, we're going to make a lot of progress. Unfortunately, we'll have to say over the next few years
Right.
to get there. It's not gonna be the next few months, just because the significant level of investment needed in the state. We're not talking about the millions or hundreds of millions, we're talking about billions to get a high-speed, future-proof fiber connection to the front door of every home that wants it in the state of Mississippi, and it's just gonna take time to get there.
Yeah, that's a lot of fiber optic network that has to be put down.
Right.
You know, there are options in the meantime. There's satellite, there's hotspots, there's other tools as well, but that's not always cost effective, and maybe it's not always as reliable.
Okay, did it come
But
over time?
there are ways to fill the gap
Okay,
in the
no.
meantime until we get, you know, a reliable, high-speed, affordable service in place. And there's a lot of tools and mechanisms from the COVID Act, CARES Act, to the American Recovery Plan, the ARPA dollars, to the
Okay,
latest
still See
bipartisan
what that one is,
infrastructure
because, you
bill,
know,
and
several
possibly some more
Yes, it is.
resources
I think
if
this
the
might be it.
Build Back
We
America,
got 2021 on
Build
it
Back
also.
Better legislation is currently at the federal level, if it comes down as well, along with
You know you can go in there and change the name of it, right?
other agencies, whether it's
Yeah, back
USDA,
there.
small
Yeah,
business,
okay.
FCC, others. There's a lot of ways to get out there and cobble those together and hopefully leverage that in a way that provides, you know, what we need is in Mississippi to get it.